Imagine a country with fewer people than New York City. No empire, no giant army, no massive oil fields, no global tech monopoly, and yet, for more than a century, some of the richest people, biggest companies, and most powerful institutions on Earth have trusted this small mountain country with their money. This is Switzerland, a country famous for chocolate, watches, ski resorts, and quiet streets. But behind that calm image is one of the most important financial systems in the world. Switzerland does not control money by shouting. It controls money by being trusted. And in finance, trust is power because money does not always go where taxes are lowest. It goes where it feels safest, and for decades, when the world became unstable, money moved to Switzerland. Wars, inflation, political crises, currency collapses, bank failures. Through all of it, Switzerland built a reputation as the place where wealth could survive. But this story is not just about secret bank accounts. That is the old version. The real story is bigger. Switzerland became powerful because it built a system around neutrality, stability, privacy, gold, banking, and global financial infrastructure, and that system turned a tiny country in the Alps into one of the quiet control rooms of the world's money. To understand how this happened, we have to start with geography. Switzerland is small, mountainous, and landlocked. It does not have access to the sea. It does not have huge farmland. It does not have massive natural resources. For many countries, that would be a weakness, but Switzerland turned it into a strategy. If you cannot dominate through size, you dominate through specialization, so Switzerland became extremely good at things that require precision and trust: watches, pharmaceuticals, insurance, banking, asset management, private wealth. Everything Switzerland built had the same message: we are stable, we are precise, we are discreet. We are not like everyone else. And then came neutrality. For centuries, Switzerland stayed out of major wars. While Europe was burning, borders were shifting, monarchies were collapsing, and currencies were being destroyed. Switzerland remained neutral. That neutrality became more than a foreign policy. It became a financial brand. If you were wealthy and lived in a country where the government might collapse, where your currency might crash, or where your assets could be seized, Switzerland looked like a safe mountain vault. Not because it promised to make you rich overnight, but because it promised to still be there tomorrow. That is the first secret of Swiss money. Survival. Then came banking secrecy. In 1934, Switzerland passed a banking law that made it a criminal offense for bankers to reveal client information without permission. This turned Swiss bank secrecy into something much stronger than a business custom. It became law, and that changed everything. Suddenly, Switzerland was not just a place to store money. It was a place where money could hide. For some people, that meant protection from unstable governments or political persecution. For others, it meant tax evasion, corruption, and dirty money, and this is the uncomfortable part of the story. Swiss banking secrecy helped create one of the most trusted financial systems in the world, but it also attracted wealth that did not want to be seen. Dictators, oligarchs, tax evaders, criminal networks, political elites. Not all Swiss money was dirty. But secrecy made Switzerland useful to people who wanted their money separated from their reputation. That is why Switzerland's image became so powerful and so controversial at the same time. To regular tourists, Switzerland was clean streets, mountains, and luxury watches. To the global elite, it was a vault. But the modern Swiss financial system is not just old secret accounts. In fact, traditional bank secrecy has been heavily weakened. Under pressure from the United States, the European Union, and global tax authorities, Switzerland had to change. Automatic exchange of financial information became the new standard. Hidden accounts became harder to maintain. The old Movie image of a billionaire whispering a password in Geneva is mostly outdated. But here is the interesting part. Even after secrecy declined, Switzerland did not lose its financial power. Why? Because secrecy was only one layer. The deeper product was trust. Switzerland still has political stability, a strong currency, experienced bankers, international legal credibility, deep wealth management expertise, and a reputation built over generations. That is why rich families still go there, not just to hide money, but to preserve it. This is the difference between getting rich and staying rich. America is the place people often go to build fortunes. Switzerland is one of the places people go to protect fortunes. That is a completely different business, and it is extremely profitable. Swiss banks manage trillions of francs in assets, a huge part of that money comes from foreign clients. That means Switzerland is not only managing Swiss wealth, it is managing global wealth, money from Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Latin America, Africa, the United States. It flows into Swiss banks, Swiss asset managers, Swiss family offices, and Swiss investment structures. This is why Switzerland matters. It is not big because of population. It is big because of the amount of money that passes through its system, and then there's gold. Switzerland is one of the most important gold hubs in the world. Gold is refined, traded, stored, and moved through Switzerland. The Swiss National Bank itself holds more than 1,000 tons of gold, and historically, when people lose trust in paper money, they return to gold. Switzerland built itself as one of the places where that fear becomes business, but the real power of Switzerland is not only in private banks, it is also in Basel. Basel is home to the Bank for International Settlements, often called the Bank for Central Banks. This institution is where central banks cooperate, discuss financial stability, and coordinate ideas that can shape the global monetary system. That does not mean Switzerland controls every central bank, but it does mean one of the most important meeting points in global finance sits inside Switzerland. And that fits the whole Swiss model perfectly. Quiet rooms, technical language, power without noise. Switzerland does not need to look powerful. That is part of why it is powerful, while other countries project strength through aircraft carriers, giant speeches, or massive political drama. Switzerland projects strength through reliability. The Swiss franc is seen as one of the world's safest currencies during global panic. Investors often run toward it. That creates a strange situation. A tiny country's currency can become a global shelter when the world gets scared. Switzerland becomes more important. This is the opposite of most countries. Many economies suffer when the world panics. Switzerland often becomes a safe harbor, but this also creates problems. If too much money runs into the Swiss franc, the currency becomes too strong. That makes Swiss exports more expensive. Watches become more expensive. Pharmaceuticals become more expensive. Tourism becomes more expensive. So even Switzerland's strength can become a burden. This is the paradox of being trusted too much. And then came the Credit Suisse collapse. For a long time, Credit Suisse was one of Switzerland's symbols. A legendary bank, a global name, part of the country's financial identity. But after years of scandals, losses, and crises, Credit Suisse collapsed into UBS in 2023. For Switzerland, this was a shock because if your national brand is trust, a banking collapse is not just a business problem. It is an identity crisis. Suddenly, the world asked, is Swiss banking still safe? And Switzerland had to prove that the system was bigger than one failed institution. UBS became even larger. Swiss regulators faced pressure, and the country's financial model entered a new era. Less secrecy, more regulation, more global scrutiny, but still enormous influence. Because the world did not stop needing Switzerland. Rich people still need wealth managers, companies still need stable banking, central banks still need cooperation. Investors still need safe currencies. Global money still needs trusted places to sit. That is why Switzerland remains powerful, not because it controls the world like a villain in a movie, but because the world keeps choosing it when things feel uncertain, and that is a much more realistic kind of power. Power by reputation, power by stability, power by being useful to people who have something to lose. So when we say Switzerland secretly controls the world's money, it does not mean every dollar is controlled from a bunker in the Alps. It means Switzerland built one of the most trusted systems for storing, managing, protecting, and moving wealth, and trust compounds like interest. One generation brings money, the next generation keeps it there. Then lawyers, bankers, insurers, asset managers, tax experts, and family offices build around it. Then more money comes because the ecosystem is already there, and eventually, the country becomes a financial machine. That is what Switzerland did. It turned neutrality into trust, trust into banking, banking into global wealth management, and wealth management into influence. The lesson is simple. Some countries become powerful by controlling resources, some become powerful by controlling trade routes, some become powerful by controlling technology. Switzerland became powerful by controlling something invisible, confidence, because in the end, money is not just numbers on a screen. Money is belief, belief that the bank will still exist, belief that the currency will hold value, belief that the courts will work, belief that the rules will not suddenly change, belief that your wealth will survive the next crisis, and for over a century, Switzerland sold that belief better than almost anyone else. That is how a small country in the mountains became one of the quietest and most powerful financial centers on Earth.